Hello everybody, my name is Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. Today you and I are going to be talking about life, not about real life and your problems, but more so the plugin from Excellent Audio. I'm a little bit late to this party. I actually wrote it off not too long ago because I was worried about the EULA, which we were like, oh, it sounded like they said that it was going to be, that they owned all of our content that we made and whatever. They recently came out with a statement that rectified that, saying that all of the stuff that we put into this, we still have the rights to. They're not going to use it. It's just to train their AI. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing, that's up to you. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at life. I not going to call out anyone specific because it's not really about them, but it's more so about my own personal take. But there's a lot of videos on the internet about people saying, hey, this is, revolutionary. This is a game changer. And for me, I think it's cool, but it's by all means not a game changer. It's also expensive. It's 150 bucks right now. It's on sale for like 110 or something on Plugin Boutique as of today. But yeah, it's cool, but let's talk about it. I think the biggest thing about why I'm disappointed with this is because I'm somebody that manipulates audio very granularly. And I'm not talking about granular synthesis, but I'm talking about like I'm going to show you here in a second. That's cool. But for other people, they might not be as used to working with audio or finding, percussive riffs, and the fact that you can, record something off your iPad or your iPhone and then upload it directly to this is definitely a welcome addition. And by no means am I saying that this plugin is a bad plugin, but I do want to talk about the things that bother me with it as we go into the video further. So I don't know, if you want to listen to me rant and talk about the pros and cons of this plugin, then stick around. Okay, so I guess we'll talk about the good. It is kind of nice that there's an auto sampler, auto slicer is what I meant to say. Bitwig doesn't have one, so it's nice to have something like this. You can put up to 8 different sounds of the slicer into this guy and it will make a beat for you. So I think that I put something melodic in here, which is, okay. We can randomize, find a new chop. If you want to favorite stuff, you can do that. And then within this, you can change the variations of the sounds and also the pattern variation. So it's a very quick and immediate way to start playing with different parts of a loop in which to, cultivate something kind of like this. And for anybody that's making like, contemporary styles of music that are bang on grid or things that are very quantized, I think that this is actually not the worst thing that you could purchase. There are some things with this, such as syncopation, swing, and then if we open up the edit function, then you can nudge everything that's on these individual tracks. So as you see, you have up to 8 different sounds, 4, 5, 8, that are dispersed between this wheel, and you can nudge them, but you can only nudge the entire wheel, which is something that kind of stinks, and that's actually a complaint that I had about XO. The other thing is that you only have a 16-step sequencer that has a few options, such as velocity, and then you can also do repeats. If you zoom in very closely, you can see that we can have up to 4 repeats. It's very reminiscent of XO. There is no master clipper. This is master distortion, so that's kind of weird for a drum plugin to not have clipping. Like, come on, you guys, excellent, you guys are the drum kings. Why no clipper? That's strange. I don't know, what can you say? So within that, though, you can get some sloppy grooves, but the thing is that even within the confinements of all this stuff, like let's say I go ahead and craft something that's going to be sloppy, so it works. That's cool. But the thing is like it still doesn't put you in a place of more finer control that I need, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So let me go ahead and pull up something that is a bunch of silly Foley or something, maybe something that I recorded. We'll hit OK. We'll hit play. Go, go, go. Okay, I'm not even going to touch this. I'm just going to let it be. Now, something that I would do within this is use this as a starting point in which to break off and, find unique loops that would not normally be in my sample pack. So what I mean by that, and I would not recommend doing that anyways. Sorry, what I would not recommend is going into your sample pack and then throwing it into Live to like re-chop it or whatever, if you're trying to do the process that I'm getting ready to show you. If you have no means or whatever to how do you say, like, flip a sample or something like that and you're very beginner, that's totally okay. But for what I'm getting ready to do, it's not necessary. It's almost like redundant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Drum Mangler, and this is, I usually do this from scratch, but just as a means of like, hey, this is just one expression of this. This is just a crazy amount of effects that I utilize to shape drums with. So if we hit play again, which I need to do this and lock that in to 85. Then I would do something like pull up a delay and trying to see if I can push that out a little bit harder. Cool. So as you can see, I've got rolling sampler going on up here, and what I would do after all of that is to pull this away, and then I'd go in and find something else within this. So I'd be like, okay, and this is the part where Life steps off, and this is why I wish that Life would have had a little bit more options, such as stretching samples, warping samples, having different warp modes, which this does not have, a more controllable or a more diverse step sequencer. It's like, I don't want to say that this idea is half-baked, but it's in between a sampler and a step sequencer, and both of them are just not quite up to par for me. I think that's the best way that I can describe this. So anyways, I'm going to continue. Let's say I want to start to find something that we will start using. So let's go and just use this. Now, most people would resample and then immediately try to apply it within a tune, but I'm the kind of person that likes to do things like this and start to change the warp modes, repitching or something, and find some kind of phrase or whatever to start a new percussive rhythm. So I'm going to turn that off for a hot sec, but okay, so we've already got something technically, but what we can do is kind of shape this and move it around. So I'm not really bound by a slice. I can pick the duration of the slice if I want to, just because I can manipulate the audio, right? So let's go ahead and move that out and move this over a bit. And what I can do is now, if you recall, you can only have up to 8 tracks on Life itself. And what I can do on this is the exact opposite. I can have as many as I want. So I can start to formulate a pattern now. So something kind of like this. So if I were to do something to start adding a clap or something, I've already filmed this video before, then I can utilize this and place a clap on here and start to build out my beat in a much more customized way, right? And so my first piece of advice with this is, like, by no means am I saying that this is a bad plugin, but I think that it should be a stepping stone, because, or it should either be a starting point or a stepping stone to get into processing sound further. For 2 reasons. One, because you can only manipulate the audio so much, and 2, because getting into this and really trying to break stuff up, if you're into the genre that I make, is really important, of really getting in there and trying to find different rhythms and whatnot. And the other thing too, that, you know what I mean, that you just can't beat from audio is, like, let's say I don't like this, right? I can just slide this over into new stuff or continue to manipulate it, whereas it would be a lot more difficult to do within something like Life. So you know what I mean? Right now I just put some stuff up and it doesn't sound that great, but Cool. So that's actually kind of sick. If I were to go back and keep that there and then move this over. Now, if I wanted to, I could balance this and then repitch this again. So right? So I've created something that is a much more humanistic groove, I feel, and that's something that like you really have to be able to be granular with the way that you edit samples and stuff, in which to be able to this is something that I'm kind of discussing with life, that like yes, you can technically, you know, apply groove and then the nudging and stuff, but you can't really separate the individual hits far enough that push it into being like, you know, this is a little late, this is a little early. It has to be the entire row of stuff. It would be really cool if instead they just had, you know, maybe even a more simple sequencer, but on here, like let's say they just had A, they had like a slider or something to where you can kind of move stuff either forward or backward. The Oxy one, that's part of the reason why I love that so much, is that you can do that on every individual step. And so you can end up getting some really crazy stuff out of it. Yeah, so there are no warp modes within this. And then I think another thing that drives me crazy about this is that you can only record up to 15 seconds. So if I wanted to make something that was, you know, a mud pie or whatever, I kind of have to be methodical, or I have to challenge myself to create as much variation as I possibly can to, you know, fit within the confines of 15 seconds. Because once you cook it into the, you know, 15-second thing, it deletes the rest of the audio and only keeps that duration. 30 seconds would even be adequate, at least for me, you know, especially when I'm trying to tweak knobs and like find the right moment or whatever. Thank God for Rolling Sampler, because Rolling Sampler gives me the best of both worlds. It pretty much gives me life. No, while it does streamline the process of, you know, coming up with a sequence very quickly or whatever, I have so much more at my fingertips to be able to, you know, extract audio from and turn into something. It's just that I think that most people just want that immediate satisfaction of, oh, I just toss it in and it makes a beat for me and then it's cool. And look, I can even add a kick that has 9 different kicks in it. And it's like, okay, it's all right. One thing with this is that you can send these out to different outputs, which is definitely, you know, is definitely cool and is definitely welcome and whatnot. I just still wish that there was a way that you could stretch the audio or change it or manipulate it. And then obviously there are features that I want within the sequencer itself that kind of make it seem like, not like it's a half-baked idea, like I said before, but something that is just missing potential, you know, because I'm not here to bag on this plugin. There's a lot to like about it. And considering the skill set, I think that this is aimed for towards people, because most people don't do what I just did. Even though I didn't do anything crazy, it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, it's not the most advanced thing or whatever, but at the same time, the depth that I go into doing what I just showed you is much more expansive. And if you are that kind of person and you're using Life, I would either use it at the beginning, as I said, and just kind of come up with an idea, or make sure that the audio that you have is relatively close to being where you want it to be. So for example, if you've got a bunch of mid basses in here that don't have sub, it's like, yeah, I guess you can like sketch the idea for placement and stuff, but just know that like you can't really do much to the audio itself. And that's kind of a bummer. I don't know. I've seen Virtual Riot use this musically with different musical ideas and stuff, but it is kind of a shame that you only have, you know, 15 seconds to work with. So you kind of have to think about how you would go about utilizing that. I guess one thing that you can do is to just record 15 seconds of playing something in a mode or in a key. So if we were to do a very quick sine wave, kind of like so, that has a little bit of tail end on it, maybe some chorus to make it softer, and some reverb, kind of like so. Let's make it a little louder. A little bit louder now. So I don't know. It's something, right? So we can utilize that and move that back out here, and we can toss that into the life here in just a second. So if we were to pull up a brand new instance, then yeah, like we can utilize this to chop some stuff. But for me personally, I'm going to show you here in just a second why I would much rather just spend time editing the audio anyways. Because like I said before, this kind of conforms you into using the audio that's available. So it doesn't really it doesn't inspire reimagining what the audio could become. Instead takes away, or instead it encourages you to just rearrange the audio that's available, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that either is like right or wrong, but for me, I feel like there's so much more to be explored if you were to, you know, take the latter approach. But anyways, yeah, this is kind of thrown in here. We can kind of chop this and utilize that and say, okay. And now if we hit play, it's going to do its own thing. So and there's nothing wrong with this. I don't think that this is the most compelling thing that I've ever heard. It doesn't feel necessarily transformative or whatever, but it's not like, you know, terrible. I just don't think that it's going to help me write my next hit record or anything. But if you were to, again, utilize this and have a little bit of forethought about how you go about using this, and that's really why I wanted to make this video, because it comes into account about workflow and about how I would actually make a track out of this. But if I were to put something on here, let's even just talk about like first party effects, because I would usually go for something like Beam or Portal or whatever. But if we utilize, you know, just some kind of delay on here, and we set this to fade, and maybe we set this here and we set this to loop. Maybe we can use a pitch shifter. And then let's make this loop a little bit shorter. And then we can utilize something like a filter, steps. Convolution reverb. Then let's give it some saturation. Maybe some OTT with some fuse compression. Okay, so now that we've created rhythm and stuff out of this, even though it's just a sine wave, right? We've got this all recorded out. So what we can do with this now is, for one, right click and go, come on, right click and go normalize and move this to a new track. So if you're not committed to the original idea, then what we can do as well is kind of the same thing with stretching this and set this to repitch. And what we can try to change around is reversing or messing with this of like, let's play this. Cool, so that was really interesting. So if we just utilize this, we can just take that and put that into a single pattern and say, okay, we need to figure out something that's going to fit within a bar or even a half bar. So we can even do something like this. Or we can split it up and do something like this. go ahead and make this twice as long and then move this over this way. But you can tell, like, this is neither in time and placed or like unquantized or whatever, but we found some kind of riff that we can utilize. And there's a lot of different stuff that we can kind of mess with in between by sliding this. And then we can even do other things too, like adding copious amounts of reverb to this and then resampling that and finding other hits, or utilizing pitch shifters. Sorry, I broke the third-party plugin rule, but this is not the best reverb anyways. But now that we have something like that, we can take this and reverse it. And we can start to create something new with this by repitching this. And the workflow of it is much faster, because I'm not really even concerned about the pitch of this. I'm not married to anything about this idea other than just trying to come up with more interesting things. But check this out. Okay, that's actually kind of cool. So I accidentally threw it back in this guy, but right, so now we just need to take out any conflicting things that we have if we wanted to cancel. Wait, what? There we go. So that's kind of cool, but I think that we could now utilize something like nudging and make it late and make it have a little bit more swing. But it was trying to get to this original concept, you know. And the other thing too is that I would probably rather even want to make this lower. So maybe something like this, and let's see what that sounds like. So now I'm actually having more musical ideas because, and again, guys, this is just how I work, but this is why I'm like, life is kind of whatever. But do you hear this? If I were to take off the filter on here, so something like that would be really cool for me if I could pitch that down and have a secondary phrase like that. So do maybe like 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, we need to do that. So So I'd probably want to bounce this again and hit undo twice, make a copy of this, turn this off, and then use this as normal. So now we have But you get what I'm saying? Like, you see where this could go, right? Like, I know that this doesn't sound like the most professional track or whatever, but as a means of finding something interesting, like manipulation of audio, it just can't really be beat. And so for me to be like super jazzed about a plugin that, you know, does what it says that it does. Like, actually, I'm sorry, it does everything that it says that it does. It's just that I don't think that the potential of this is realized. So if XLN is listening, warp modes would be excellent, or having the audio slices have more functionality and control available. Being able to, at the very least, individualize the movement or the offset, micro time. But there's lots of different words that's been realized with for this kind of stuff. To me, it would be so crucial. Add a clipper, you know, add a compressor, maybe that would be nice. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you know, a little bit goes a long way. The auto slicing and the beat making is cool, but like it's so clinical, and most people don't need what I'm looking for. In fact, I would say like more than 80% of people that use Life probably are thinking that something like this is a game changer because it allows them to cut stuff up easily and just throw a beat on. But man, there's so much more. There's so much more potential to be explored with this. And so I'm sorry. I don't think that I'm trying to express that this is a bad plugin. I just had more hopes for it, especially in 2024 when samplers and sequencers are a dime a dozen. I don't necessarily am saying that you shouldn't buy this or anything, but for me personally, I'm going to use this, but at very specific intervals of my sound design sessions, particularly the beginning, and then never open it up again, most likely. Or, I mean, I guess you could toss in your master in here and like cut stuff up like that and find cool timbres, but at that point you might as well just utilize a sampler and then change the offset to be mapped to the velocity, which you all have seen me do in a sampler in general. Depends on what you're going for. If you're looking for actual chops like drum hits, then that's one thing. There's better options for a slicer. Like I think that Serato sample, because it has stem separation, would be better. But if you were to grab a sampler on here, you can see here that on this guy I've got this expressions tab, but if you have any of these set to the playhead of here, then whenever you hit a note, depending on how hard you hit it, right, what you will do is change the velocity will change, sorry, the sample start. So if I just grab a C3 here, check this out. Now this isn't perfect because this is kind of bugged the way that this reacts, but I mean that's an easy way to kind of like have the best of both worlds, because you can just make an off groove sloppy sequence like this and be like, look, we have a measure of a bar, well I want this hit to be, you know, something kind of like this, and set this off, and then maybe I can even change the pitch of this in a much easier way, because you can change the pitch in Life but only by 12 semitones up or down, but I can utilize this to kind of make this off grid a little bit, or have this be completely off and then it catches back up. So you get what I'm saying? There's other options that you have with Life. It's just a matter about how you think about it. The plugin is cool. I bought it. I purchased it. I'm going to use it from time to time, but there's so much more that they could do with this. So anyways, if you all have any questions about Life and about how I would use it or something, then let me know, or about how you use it if you have a creative way. But it's not enough for mud pies because you only get 15 seconds. It's cool for Foley recording for just, you know, a very fast transference, but you could also just airdrop if you really want to. And then like everything is good, but it's like a jack of all trades, but master of none. I don't know. What can you say? Anyways, would love to know your thoughts. That's my take on Life as just an unedited, you know, hey, here's some sound exploration and fun. But no, I don't think it's a game changer. I think that it's okay. And let me know what you think. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, if you like my sounds, alchemy.com, or book a lesson with me. That'd be cool.